Chapter 6. The Hunter's Pack. When you leave camp for a day of big game hunting, the chances are you are carrying about 10 cartridges in addition to those in your loaded rifle, a knife, watch, compass, waterproof matchbox, a small tea pail maybe, and a lunch. The camera, in its case, may hang over a shoulder. You may also have along a binocular or a good telescope, for either will help you to determine, while there's still time to do something about it, if certain suspicious objects are game or not. Likely there will be other items bulging from your pockets: handkerchief, map, notebook, pencil, tiny first aid kit, collapsible drinking cup, exposure meter, extra film, sunglasses, small mirror, piece of cord, and carborundum stone. Cache or carry. A lot of hunters, if the weather is at all cold, start off in the chill of the morning in a heavy mackinaw. Many, in addition, so stuff their pockets and weigh down their belts that particularly if they push through any tarmac with its shedding needles or past burned spruce, they soon look and feel like an overloaded Christmas tree. They puff and grunt and perspire along in a bulky jacket as they top hills and breast thick brush. The straps of camera and glasses continually hang them up. The pull and strain of loaded clothing becomes more and more uncomfortable. The chances are that by now they would like to shed that coat, but they have nowhere to carry it. All or most of this impedimenta is often desirable on a day's hunt. That particular system of carrying it, however, is unnecessarily handicapping and unduly out of date. I started out more than 60 years ago lugging my stuff more or less in this fashion, until I noted that most of the world's most experienced hunters, except those accompanied by guides or gun bearers, toted such articles in a rucksack on their back. I thereupon adopted this method and have adhered to it ever since. All discomfort vanishes. Once you have carried a light rucksack for 3 or 4 days afield, you will never thereafter notice you have it with you. All discomfort is gone. Nothing dangles or catches. Your belt does not restrict you the way it did before. Your pockets do not bulge or press. As you warm from exercise, off comes the jacket or extra shirt, and into your rucksack it goes. If you stop to glass a promising slope or to enjoy lunch, or if you begin threading along a windy ridge, there is your extra clothing to put on again. You can get it everything quickly, and the rucksack is no burden at all. The pack does not have to be anything elaborate. In a pinch, a gunny sack with the middle of a short rope tied to its mouth and the ends knotted to the lower corners to serve as shoulder straps will fill the bill. It will be easier to keep such knots in place, incidentally, if they are tied around bulges made by some handy light objects such as potatoes. The ropes will ride better too if something such as gloves or birch bark is placed between them and the shoulders, but the point is the pack does not have to be expensive or elaborate. Camp outfitters stock many models, but those rucksacks having 2 small pockets on the outside of the big central sack are most desirable, particularly if they have leather instead of webbed straps. Such models are usually made of a light waterproof duck. If the color is too near that of a game animal, simply baste a red bandana handkerchief over the outside when hunting in frequented forests. Shoulder straps. My rucksacks have all been of this type, my present one being made of tanned moose hide of my own killing and thong sewed, but that is perhaps a pardonable affection. The shoulder straps should be let out so that the pack sags down into the hollow of the back with more than half of its weight resting on the hips. Thus, its burden is not felt on your shoulders, and your center of gravity remains low enough to assure better and safer balance. You can get in and out of the harness as easily as you can your suspenders. The widespread and persistent notion that a pack should be carried high on the shoulders is all wrong, and likely originated with some writer who never in his life hefted a pack for more than an hour or two. At least all light and medium weight packs used in rough country should be carried low down with most of the weight on the hips. The extremely heavy loads borne short distance over portages and freight trails are another story. For ordinary one-day hunts, your pack and its contents should never weigh over 10 pounds. Even when you anticipate the desirability of staying out from your base camp overnight, the pack need not weigh in excess of 15 pounds. Such cargoes are scarcely felt after you have accustomed yourself to carrying a light load on your lower back. Packing of this sort is, indeed, not nearly so tiring as hiking in boots that weigh a pound more than your city shoes. Making your hunting pay off. Before we inventory the desirable contents of this rucksack, let us consider two kinds of big game hunting. The first and more common variety is when you leave your base after a good breakfast well after daylight, then hunt and tramp until late afternoon, except for perhaps taking a stand during midday on a good lookout. You wend your way homeward in time to reach camp and supper before dark. This is the average day's hunt, and it is not productive of much success except by sheer good luck. Big game feeds and travels abroad mostly between the last hour before sunset and the first hour after sunrise. These two extreme hours are worth more than all the rest of the day combined so far as spotting and bagging game is concerned. If you hunt in the usual way, you are probably spending these two really productive hours either in camp or within a mile or so of there, where game is surely disturbed and alerted if not actually driven out by noise and smells. With the other method, often used by the more experienced still hunter, you breakfast long before dawn, you leave camp when just enough pale light has smudged across the eastern horizon to enable you to see well enough not to run a branch into an eye or step into a hole. By the time it's light enough to make out your rifle sights, you are well away in undisturbed country. Throughout the daylight hours, you hunt and watch in the bedding or feeding grounds of the game. You turn homeward when the shadows become long and black. Why not sleep where you are? Or maybe along toward late afternoon you see ahead a basin or a range that looks like a mighty good game prospect. Perhaps with your glasses you even make out a buck or a berry gouging bear several miles ahead. So you elect to make a bivouac where you then are, preferably in some sheltered spot near water, and to resume the following day your hunt in this more promising game country that far from your base camp you could not reasonably expect to reach and cover and then return in one day. Such a decision to remain out overnight may also be forced on you when you kill a large animal near sunset miles from camp and in the interest of good meat or a fine trophy have to dress and butcher without delay. This task may occupy you well after darkness has set in so blackly that you have to build a fire to see to finish the job. In many such cases the chances are that you may even have to make a second camp on your final way back to the base and thus to be 2 nights out. This is real hunting as distinguished from a day's tramp, and of course it pertains more to unspoiled wilderness than to more populated deer forest adjacent to eastern farming country. To be completely factual, there is an exception to this pale dawn to dim dusk hunting. This is in the open country of the Canadian Northwest where you find sheep, goat, caribou, moose, and bear. These animals here feed and bed largely in the open. They can be seen near noon almost as often as in the wee hours, although if you seek them at watering spots, the early and late portions of the day are still most productive. We often locate game here with glasses and then stalk them rather than still hunt. In such open country, too, you and perhaps your horse can customarily travel long after the sun goes down. In northern British Columbia, the days become so prolonged that during June it is possible in clear weather to read outdoors comfortably at midnight. Hunting in such regions may be considered as a third kind. For the first and third kinds of hunting, you require only some of the articles already mentioned, unless you are traveling in the saddle or with a pack dog. These items can be most easily and satisfactorily carried in your rucksack. Probably the entire load will be considerably less than 10 pounds. What to take? For the second type of hunting, you need to carry food and shelter that will enable you to remain out 2 nights if necessary. This entire outfit need not weigh over 15 pounds. Let us inventory this kind of a hunter's pack. Take the ammunition first. In addition to the cartridges in your rifle, you should have at least 2 or 3 rounds in your handiest pocket. These can be wadded in your handkerchief so that they will not rattle. The more convenient and practical way to carry them is silently and compactly in a clip. This way, paying attention to their continued accessibility you can have out and headed in the right direction with a single motion. Then in your rucksack carry a full carton of 20, 5 of these being small game loads. The latter may come in handy for grouse and small mammals you may want to collect either for the pot or, unless prohibited by local law, for their pelts. Why so many cartridges? For one reason, you can never tell when some emergency may arise, nor when signal shots may be highly desirable. Your watch, compass, and waterproof matchbox go along, certainly, probably in your pockets unless the compass happens to be one of the convenient pin-on variety. In a rucksack, perhaps, you have a sharp skinning knife and a whetstone with which to keep at that way. And a whetstone. If you expect that you may shoot a moose or other big animal, it will be a good idea also to include one of two things. A small, keen hand axe weighing not more than a pound is a great aid in butchering large game. So is a light folding saw, if you can locate one of sufficiently good quality. If not, a small hacksaw will get through bones a lot more neatly than an axe. Camera and glasses. Almost certainly you will want to bring back some record of your hunt, whether it is successful from a trophy standpoint or not. Photographs of animal tracks, new country, and your biovac will help you to relive your trip and share it with others for years afterwards. So you will very possibly wish to include a small camera, an exposure meter, spare film, and a clamp-on holder, which, with a self-timer, will let you get into the picture. This equipage also goes into the rucksack. Binoculars, however, should be suspended by the leather thong around your neck so that they will hang in front, just below your collar, where you can bring them to your eyes instantly. There is no need to wear a case, so that the glasses won't bounce around too much or get in the way when I lean forward. I shove mine inside my shirt. Clothing. For clothing, you may need some kind of warm garment for the chill of the morning to put on while watching on a stand or to don at night. A mackinaw or similar coat, if you are walking, is ordinarily too heavy and unwieldy in ratio to the warmth it affords. A down-insulated jacket is a better choice in cold weather. Otherwise, it is also apt to be unduly bulky. During many years in the wildest and occasionally the coldest portions of the continent, we have both found the best extra garment is simply another good woolen shirt. When it becomes too warm, sew it in your rucksack along with a light pair of gloves, perhaps, or during colder weather, woolen mitts, one of which has a flap-covered slit in the palm through which the trigger finger can be extended. Another item we would recommend is a poncho. You can secure one weighing only a pound, which will fold up as small as a bandana handkerchief. It will keep even your knees bone dry in snow and rain. It is protection in a cold wind. It will even serve splendidly for a lean-to shelter when you remain out overnight. For sleeping, you may like to consider one of the very light down-filled mummy sleeping bags that weigh only some 3 or 4 pounds. These are a little bulky, and if you roll one inside your poncho, it will make a bundle about 6 by 15 inches, which will probably have to be tied on the outside of your rucksack. Grub stake. Next, we come to grub, briefly because of the detailed chapters on the subject of sustenance towards the end of the book. You are going prepared to spend 2 nights, 7 meals, that is, away from your base camp. You will need sufficient nourishment to keep you warm and stoked with energy. This food should be reasonably free of water and not bulky. Our own tastes have always been quite simple. We have relied mostly on small waterproof bags containing such staples as rolled oats, cornmeal, whole milk powder, whole egg powder, flour, and other ingredients mixed in the correct proportions to provide bannock dough when water is added, salt, sugar, bacon, figs, dates, raisins, chocolate, tea, and the like. Experiment with some of these at home, why don't you? To get an idea of how much it takes to make 7 meals that will reasonably satisfy an outdoor appetite. You will probably be surprised at the scant weight and bulk. For cooking and eating utensils, you will need a small pot with a bail. If you don't want to bother carrying it back, a large fruit juice can with an attached wire bail will do. You'll also probably want either an enamel or stainless steel cup. An Army aluminum mess pan, which will provide both frying pan and plate. Any greasy food may be carried inside of this, incidentally. Add a spoon. You already have your knife. A stick will make a suitable fork. although taking a light stainless steel fork offers no trouble either. Include too a plastic bag about 15 inches square, which will be handy for carrying back any liver, heart, kidneys, and tongue. So that is the whole cheese, the maximum hunter's pack. It will probably weigh somewhere between 10 and 15 pounds. The bulk will be slight. If you carry it in a rucksack low down on your back, you will scarcely notice it all day long. Side washing in comfort. But how can you be comfortable side washing out in the hills and woods on a cold night with so light to rig and without a tent? This is not nearly as difficult as it may seem. When you decide you are going to make a night of it, begin looking for a suitable place to bivouac. There should be water, of course. Ordinarily, however, you will not bed down close beside it. You will generally find that climate more comfortable 100 feet or so higher on a bench or hill. There it will be warmer, drier, quieter possibly, and the air drift will be much less. Try to find a small clump of spruce, balsam, or at least some thick bushes in which your bed will be sheltered from any wind. For the bed, clean off a level space about 3 feet wide and a foot longer than your height. Scratch depressions several inches deep for your shoulders and hips. If you want to take the trouble, cut 4 poles and stake them in place around the edge of the bed. A mattress can be made of shingled evergreen boughs, as described elsewhere, or you may simply gather together dry forest litter such as leaves and pine needles. As a matter of fact, the latter will be warmer. Then haul in a lot of firewood, enough to last all night. This does not have to be short, and you don't need to spend a lot of time working it into any particular lengths. Unless there is a fire hazard, fairly big logs 10 to 15 feet long are fine. You can place the centers in the fire, let them burn in two, then move the ends in easily. Unforgettable camps. Locate your fire downwind from your bed, lengthwise to it, and about 3 feet away. Stretch your poncho above the bed as a reflecting tent if you want, and your little camp will be all ready for supper and a night's rest. After you have fueled up on grub, take time to dry out your underwear and socks, put on the extra shirt, arrange the rucksack for a pillow if you want. Build up the fire with the big stuff so that it will hold, and lie down. Let your thoughts drift you as lazily as the clouds scuttling across the yellow moon. In 2 or 3 hours, maybe, the cold will awaken you. Don't just lie there and shiver. Hunch up and build the fire up again. While you're getting warm, listen to the night noises and sweetness with which a whippoorwill's call sounds, the wilderness of the echoes set vibrating by a dark loon's laugh. Perhaps you'll detect the faint, distant cries of migrating swans, of wild wings flapping exultantly nearer, and of tremulous notes that mingle vaguely with the music of wilderness water and the melodic muttering of trees. Perhaps you'll even hear, as few do, the swishing of northern lights and see them in bands, curtains, arcs, beams, and coronas of mingling colors, among which, likely is not, the silvery green of chatoyant jade will be dominant. These small, heartening one-night camps are among the most memorable you will ever experience, particularly if you are fortunate enough to have a congenial companion along. They will live longer in your thoughts than those spent in the base camp with its comparative convenience, and at the first platinum streak of dawn, you'll be rested, fed, and in the best hunting country.